Hailing frequencies open, and welcome to Star Trek Discoverage, the live podcast that boldly goes into excruciating detail about this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. I'm your host, Aaron Coker, a.k.a. Caliban, and if I was ever trapped in an alternate universe on an evil ship with my boyfriend who turned out to be the leader of an alien race that had sworn to kill me, well, I would have shot him. But that's just me. I'm joined on this show, as usual, by Ella Pearson. She's the co-host of the Generations Geek podcast on the Chronic Drift Network, which is at chronicdrift.com. Welcome back, Ella.
Thank you.
Ella, I don't want you to give the whole game away, but we've got a half an hour to fill, you know. So do you feel better about Culber this week? A little bit.
Do you think I feel better?
Time heals all wounds, they say.
A week does not.
That's not enough time, I guess.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, duly noted. We will talk about that, of course, a little later in the show. And our special guest this evening is Dr. David A. Banks. David is a researcher, writer, and a teacher. He holds a PhD in science and technology studies, and he's a co-chair of Theorizing the Web, an annual conference that examines the interrelationships between technology and society. David, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks.
Thanks for joining us. You taped a show with me recently for Enterprising Individuals, and we talked about a Star Trek Voyager episode, and you were telling me that Voyager is the show that you first started watching as a fan. How do you feel that Discovery compares to Voyager?
It's always it's really hard to compare a show that you're watching as an adult to one that you are watching as a kid, and the emotional energy that you wrap around that. So
yeah.
I don't know if it's even possible to compare them, but I think there are parts of Discovery that I'm warming to, mainly the ones that that take a little bit longer to deal with like issues or problems, or there seems to be a little bit more interest in the writing room to think about the balance of rights and wrongs and stuff, and I'm digging on that pretty well.
Yeah, I was talking recently with another guest on the show about a Voyager episode, Remember, which deals with fascism and discrimination, but also cultural memory. And something that we touched on in relation to Discovery is that social allegory has been Trek's stock and trade for decades, but so far Discovery seems to be dealing with more personal themes more prevalently, rather than overarching social themes. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, we are light on allegory so far. Although maybe this episode that we're about to discuss maybe starts bucking that trend, because I really appreciate the symmetry between the Federation in the regular universe, and in the mirror universe, these the rebels against the Terrans, they identify that as sort of what they call the closest thing to the Federation in the mirror universe, and and that sort of the recognition of an other of yourself in an other is the sort of empathy that the Federation should be espousing, and that we would go to Star Trek to find, and it was cool to see that. Actually might have been I'm a weird person, but I think that was my favorite part of the show so far, was that one line.
Yeah. I also always wonder it's a mirror universe, it's another side, but I always wonder what specifically defines it. It seems to be that characters that we recognize are doing bad things, but there doesn't seem to be a complete moral inversion Earth 3 and DC Universe, where it's the good guys are bad and the bad guys are good, because you've got people like Sarek, who in this reality is also a positive force, at least so far as we know. But that lack of empathy, at least on the human side, seems to be sort of the defining characteristic of the mirror universe from what we're seeing.
Yeah. I almost wonder if the mirror universe is really just this deterministic play on what would happen if one historical event was different than everything else is different. So the butterfly flapping its wings,
right.
sort of thing. I wonder if that's really just all the mirror universe is the that I guess it's canon in Enterprise, where they redo the beginning the end, sorry, of Star Trek First Contact, except the guy says shoot him, and then they all run on board after the Vulcan showed up. And maybe that's it. Maybe it was just like that one guy made that one decision in that one period of time, and that just like that's the mirror universe is just that.
Yeah. I like that idea of the butterfly effect, although it starts to strain credibility when every incarnation that we visit, and I think we visited it on every show, except for Voyager, where we keep finding the same crew that's all together somehow, even though there have been many, many points of divergence that could happen, even going back to, Empress Hoshi or whatever. Because on this, we've got Sarek, and I have to assume, he has Spock at some point, because Spock, of course, is in the TOS version of the Mirror Universe. But we'll talk about that. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show.
Yeah.
So we just watched the episode 11 of Star Trek Discovery, entitled The Wolf Inside, and we're here to break it down for you. As always, we're setting a course for the spoiler zone, or the spoiler universe, I suppose. So be warned. We're glad you decided to join us, but if you haven't seen the episode, spoilers are incoming. The official synopsis for the episode this week is: the crew continues their guise, and Burnham is ordered on a merciless mission to end the resistance in hopes of returning home. Meanwhile, Tilly works on restoring Stamets' neurofunction. It's written by Lisa Randolph. It was directed by T.J. Scott. And last week on Star Trek Discovery, the crew of the Discovery found themselves in the Mirror Universe, and with the task of disguising themselves as a Terran Empire ship so that they could survive and hopefully return home. And this week sees the crew going deeper into the woods, as it were, and they're still a long way from Grandma's house. Actually, I'm not sure if I've got my fairy tale metaphors right here, but they're in trouble. Suffice to say that they are in trouble. First, real quick, I wanted to talk about something from last week that I don't know if we gave enough time to. As we saw last week, of course, Dr. Culber was removed from the show, and although it was a shocking twist, so to speak, it's part of the ongoing story. I wonder what you thought about the implications of it in light of the ongoing criticism of the killing off of LGBTQ characters in TV and film, as pointed out by the Bury Your Gays movement.
I'm going to assume you're not talking to me since I already yelled about this last week.
Ella, if you've got something to add, you can. But yeah, I was talking to you.
No, I can sit here just for a second.
I can hear her steaming.
I'll steam for a second. Yeah, sure. That's really frustrating. Man, is like I'm to some degree. So I'm torn in that on the one hand. I like storytelling that makes you worry about characters because they are always in danger. Although who gets to be in danger first is kind of getting a little annoying here.
Yeah.
Where it's like I didn't like it, so now I'm also sort of like hoping like maybe like some mirror universe Stamets comes back or they pull a Harry Kim. And they just like bring back the one from the other universe, kind of thing,
right?
But it's I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I think that something that we talked about, or where we kind of landed last week, is it's unfortunate. It seems to kind of fit with the trope, but if this is a show that really is taking these characters, for granted as just our characters that we're following, and not necessarily thinking about their orientation, then they'd have to be on the menu for characters that are in danger. All these characters are in danger. We've seen a lot of them. It's been proven that this is a show where you got to watch it, like you could die at any time, and so hopefully we're looking at it that way. And of course, there's been statements by they were very quick to sort of say that. Wilson Cruz's involvement with the show is not over. We'll definitely see him again in some way, as we've seen other characters who have disappeared and come back. So I have to kind of look at it positively and optimistically like that. Ella, anything to add?
I don't know. It's frustrating. I was really hoping that something would happen this week that would make me feel better. I want to be placing a lot of my trust in the writers. I mean, they've done a great job so far.
Yeah.
I don't know. In that moment, I don't think that it was an excuse for him to die, you know? Like, he told Ash, like, bro, like, you're a Klingon, and Ash was like,
Yeah, second
like,
opinion.
his brain was just vibrating, and so, like, in that moment, he really was in danger, but now, this week, Stamets almost died, and it seems like lots of people are dying who, at first, were, like, hallmarks of the show, and we're making big steps in Star Trek history, at least.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm upset.
Yeah. I know if anything happens to Tilly, you're driving out west. I think with
I will be gone.
with a machete. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think about, like, yeah, we should, like, take, like, all characters should be fair game for the full range of, what could possibly happen to them.
Yeah.
Though, I guess when you think about, like, the fact that it is like two LGBT characters, right? Two gay characters.
Right.
The fact when you kill one of them in the relationship, that is in some way like an attack on their status as the thing, as like their, like the identity that they are representing.
Yeah.
Right. If like one in the relationship is killed, and it's like, yeah. So it's like it's I thought it was a little disappointing, but if you're hearing that Wilson Cruz will be seen again, I'm into it.
Yeah, and also just a criticism of like the sort of storytelling, having it be an event that has a lot of effect. It's if for instance, Ash Tyler kills him, to keep his secret. The secret's revealed, like not 45 minutes later in Showtime. So it's not like it was really that big of a secret. Although it does serve to really to increase the threat, at least for that time, of Tyler, because when he starts talking to Burnham, and she learns his secret, you do start worrying about Burnham. It's like, he's going to go snappy again, and so there is like a real threat there that is sort of established from that previous scene.
True.
If we're trying to help them out, but they don't need our help. So, like I said, we find ourselves back on the ship this week, and at least for a day or two, our crew has had to settle into the routine of the Mirror Universe. And something that I really liked was, we see it over the course of the episode, but right away they establish the drain, like the spiritual drain that this is having on Burnham, having to pretend to be, mean and to live this way in the Mirror Universe. And there's that great scene near the beginning of the episode where they sort of zoom in through the front window of the bridge, and she's sitting on, the throne, as it were. But there's just this sort of barely perceptible kind of slump to her. She just looks wiped out. Like, she looks really not happy to be in the position that she's in. Which is the captain of the Mirror Universe, Shenso. And I think it's interesting that there's been a lot of speculation, at least that I've heard, about her moving. This is a story of her becoming a commander, becoming a captain, moving into command possibly at the end of the series. But we get to see her commanding a ship. Like, she's the captain of this ship. What'd you think about that?
I like seeing her as a captain. She fills the seat well, even if she is like leaning over, hunched, and obviously drained.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that you get a lot of times in a mirror universe or an alternate universe situation. Is that a lot of times writers use it as a way to sort of advance the characters in a way that they couldn't normally. So in our universe, Burnham might never achieve that rank, just being a traitor and just having a provisional rank. And so how do we see what she looks like in a command position? Well, we go to another universe where she pretends to be somebody else, and so she can be the commander of this other ship. And she seems to do a pretty good job, but she's having, like I said before, I think she's having trouble sort of balancing this with her with what she wants to be. Ella, did you feel for Burnham in that situation?
Yeah, I'm a little more worried for her than I am impressed by her actions. Okay. Sure. I feel like, because that's hard, and I was really freaked out before she knew about Ash. That was terrifying for me. Like, those scenes where they're just like sitting together, like in her room, where they're like lying in bed and she's
Yeah.
like confiding in him. I was
Yeah.
like, throw him out.
Yeah. And
Um,
he says that she's the tether or whatever
yeah,
that keeps her and everything good. And it's like, yeah, that's what we call dramatic irony.
yeah.
Yeah, that's how that works.
I'm a little, and what makes me worried is part of what's impressive. Like, for example, when, like, just after Ash or Vuk tried to kill her, and then a bunch of her crew members are there, and she has to go back to being, like, Mirror Universe Burnham, it was immediate.
Yeah.
Like, there was no, like, she wasn't, like, turning around and, like, brushing tears away. She wasn't, like,
Right, yeah.
trying to hide her. She didn't, like, kick everyone out and, like, stay in her room and, like, comprehend what had just happened. She just went immediately to getting him off the ship. That was crazy to me.
Yeah. And honestly, I like the fact that, you know, as much pressure as there is and as easy as it would be for her to want to eliminate him because she feels betrayed. He wants to kill her. She killed his boss. So she's got, you know, plenty of reason. If you look at it from the point of view or the worldview of somebody like Lorca, she still does the right thing at the end. You know, she still saves his life essentially. Cause she set the whole thing up with the crew of the Discovery. And so, yeah, I mean, she still remains her. Her Burnham-y essence.
I was a little on board for him just being immediately murdered, but
yeah, that wouldn't have been so bad maybe either. But yeah, she does the right
stays
thing.
a little bit more true to her character to just put him in the brig. But
yeah. And
he's also a great asset though, right? Like now that you have this guy, like you want to know what he knows.
That's right.
That's a great prisoner.
Now he's the source of intel, hopefully for them. What I want to know is, what was the plan if he hadn't revealed himself? Because she's got to get this chip or this disc or whatever to Discovery that's got the information about the Defiant so they can get home. But if that hadn't happened, well, how was she going to do it? It kind of worked out pretty well.
I have no idea.
Otherwise, just put it in the garbage chute or something and let it float out into space and maybe they grab it or something.
It does make you wonder, like, how close was the Discovery that she was able to just, like, immediately know where it was and go beep boop and then, like, send him, like, right next to it? Like, how close
like they're within transporter range?
Right,
or
yeah.
within two transporter ranges?
Yeah, right.
So, like, wouldn't that also put them in sensor range? Did they? I don't.
Possibly.
Well, if Burnham's ship transported him to, like, the farthest he could possibly go, and then the Discovery was the farthest it could possibly be from there to still transport him onto the ship, would they be in sensor range? I don't know. Unclear.
Possibly,
Science
yeah.
Star Trek. And
You could probably add the distance it would take a ship to go, to fly for about 30 seconds, or about how long it takes a guy to freeze in space, But otherwise, that seems like it's one of those things that, we get where we kind of collapse some of the distances and play with things a little bit just for the purpose of story. But because I don't think the Discovery has any way to hide themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had to become the ISS Discovery.
Right.
So Burnham and Tyler, at least Tyler for now, go on a mission to talk to the leader of the Resistance on this planet, the Firewolf, which is definitely, I don't know how many times or how many names he had to write down in his high school notebook before he came up with Firewolf, but that was definitely a good one. And of course, it turns out to be Vok, or at least this universe's Vok. And in a way, we talked about last week the fact that there are mysteries that you just can't keep secret from an audience, or at least a modern audience, and how I think a lesser show would, as soon as the online community starts saying, oh, this guy, he's actually the Klingon guy, we figured it out, they would try to find some way to, like, change it or get around it. But Star Trek Discovery, like, I don't think they care necessarily that you know what the secrets are, because they're that the first part of the story is, ooh, there's a secret, there's a twist, but then how it plays out is the most important part. And I think that continues this week, because I think we probably could have guessed that the leader of the Resistance would be Vok, And we get this great reveal, which is something that we talked about last week, kind of jokingly, but also that the emperor or empress would be Giorgio.
Did I say last week that it was going to be her?
I think we had a list of like 3 or 4, and that was one of the people on our list.
I was just so, like, shocked and then just immediately proud of myself for no reason. I was like, it's Giorgio! I knew it! Right. I knew it! I figured this one out!
Right. Yeah, but the show takes that in stride, because it's still a great moment. It's still surprising. And yet, it's, of course, if it was the perfect choice, of course it is.
Yeah.
So we're on pulling for Harvey Mudd.
Mudd. I was going to say, yeah. We could cross. We said Harvey Mudd. We can probably cross that off. Cyrano Jones is another one we can probably cross off. But so we find ourselves on this planet, and they have to sort of negotiate with them. And what I'm wondering is this the first time that we actually see Javad Iqbal on screen? Like, who is the guy in the Vok makeup if we've got Shazad Latif standing right there?
I'm still trying, I can't think about anything else. I'm still trying to just take in that was actually the reality of the plot line.
Yeah.
Is like however many weeks ago you were like, Ella, get ready. I have a story for you.
When I first broke the news of this crazy like, tin hat theory. Yeah. Yeah.
And now that thing has played out. I'm just like, I'm not here. I'm just disassociated.
And it's something of a first, I believe, because at least in a mirror universe situation, because we have a character who is a character, but in disguise and altered, meets their mirror universe, and then they fight. They don't like explode or turn into goo like Time Cop, but we get to see them sort of face off against each other, and I thought that was really creative.
That scene was too much for me. Also, did you guys notice that when Burnham was like freaking out, Mirror Universe Sarek like stepped forward and was like holding her shoulders?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Because I saw it and immediately just lost my mind.
Something I thought was really interesting about that is that, Burnham is really taking this seriously because, clearly they could provide assistance in the mirror universe, but she really starts digging into like the Klingon psychology. Like, I think she's just happy to have a Klingon that doesn't want to kill her there, so she can apply her logic and she can talk to this guy and kind of figure out like when we go back, what can we do to like negotiate or give me something I can give to the other Klingons to keep them from trying to go to war with us.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
If I were Vok in that moment, I would be like, what is going on? That you save me from inevitable destruction, and you just want to do like philosophy 101 with me, like. You would just like ask me metaphysical questions about my culture and my identity, and it was like, is that really what you came here for? Like, that's weird. I wouldn't trust that.
Yeah, and as far as Sarek goes, he does the mind meld and he sees that her intentions are true and that she's from another mirror universe or whatever. But there's a lot more that he would have seen than that, unless he did just a once over. I mean, he would have seen that he exists in her world, that he and she are very close, that she started a war, that, he would have seen that she was friends with the Empress in her reality. So I'm wondering if we're going to see more of Sarek in the future. I'd have to assume that we are.
I need that. That's what I need next from Discovery.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put money down and say he's the way that they get out of the mirror universe.
Okay, sure.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say he's their savior, I guess. I don't know, out of it, because all those things that you listed, I think were what he saw, right? So those are the flashes that we get, and I kind of just assume that that's what he's seeing, are like
right
her as a kid with Sarek and then like saying guilty,
right, yeah,
and stuff like that.
And yet he's like, so she's okay, yeah, she's fine.
Yeah, right, yeah. And so he sees those things and just it was like, yeah, that seems okay. Right. I guess I'm just guessing like he's gonna show up with his awesome beard, goatee, and like and save them at the last second.
Yeah. So I guess we're assuming that he made it off the planet then, like he wasn't destroyed.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like they say that the evacuation is not complete, right? So
Oh, okay.
that says that someone like they have done some evacuating probably,
Right.
which would and I think that I think that would, in a similar vein of like why like you kind of waste the secret by giving it away in the first act of the second episode or of the next episode where about who Tyler killed, like that's I don't know why you'd have that whole scene and then like kill all of those characters when you've set yourself up for some very interesting sort of back and forths.
Yeah. And now Burnham's in a situation where, assuming the Mirror Universe Vok believes that she betrayed him, now she's got two Voks that want to kill her. She just can't make it work with these Klingons.
No.
We also get to see some other aliens on the planet. I liked how the planet was basically your classic rock quarry type planet. It was good to get to see a rock quarry set in a modern Star Trek episode. But we get to see Andorians, and we get to see Tellarites. And the Andorians look pretty Andorian-y, but the Tellarites have really gotten a workover.
I don't know why they decided the Andorians needed the contrast needed to be turned up on the Andorians.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right. It was like the last ones I've seen, they were kind of like a powder blue, and now they're just like this
yeah,
really really dark blue. And I sometimes I wonder what the politics are of the costume designers and the makeup people who are like, no, I need to put my mark on the Andorians and like make it look just a little bit like this instead of like which it really hurts continuity, but I guess it makes for like some pretty cool stuff. And I was really into the Tellarites, seeing those again.
We got a budget, we got to use it. Yeah.
Yeah,
they're very blue. You could do a weather report against them. They are extremely blue.
I like the blue though, and also like I feel like every alien that's just like, oh, this is an alien whose skin is a different color from ours. It's always like they're all one color. It's like, no, I want to see the range. I want to see an ombre of Andorians. You know what I mean?
Sure. Okay. So you're proposing like different sort of ethnic divisions of Andorians.
Yeah.
Some of them are.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's Klingons are different colors, and of course Vulcans are as well. So I could buy that. What else? We see that Tilly, of course, has made it her project to bring Stamets back to revive him, and we get a little bit of revelations about what's going on with him and the mycelial network, or the mycelial plane is what they've started to call it. And it brings to mind to me something that, well, we get a big revelation in this episode that we haven't really talked about previously on Discoverage, which is what is the status of Stamets in other universes. We've gotten hints that he is getting flashes from other universes, or that he can somehow connect to them, and we get our first shot in this episode in what I think is as big a revelation as Empress Giorgio. We get to see the Mirror Universe Stamets just walk up when they're in Pandora or wherever Stamets ends up. He's like, "Oh, hey, you made it. All right, let's talk." That's a big deal. That's the kind of Rick and Morty-ing of this situation. Whenever you've got a genius character who has access to other universes, he's clearly going to run into other versions of himself who are like, "Yeah, I can do that too."
Yeah, and the greeting that Mirror Universe Stamets gives our Stamets makes it sound like he's not immediately hostile. Like, it seems like the next sentence out of his mouth is gonna be like, "Time to get to work," and like, you got to get out of this like Avatar movie or something, Like, so maybe the mycelia plane, I guess is now maybe that's like the where everyone gets along in different universes. Maybe that's the détente.
Also, if Mirror Universe Stamets like has the same spore thing that our Stamets does, like does that mean that the Mirror Universe Discovery has a spore drive?
That's a good question.
Right.
'Cause,
Yeah,
we
right?
don't. Yeah, and nobody's said word one about Stamets on Discovery, so or on the Mirror Discovery, or just any of the Mirror Universe people. So I don't know. I mean, he's got the outfit on; he has to, so we know that he's the Mirror version. But that is a good question.
Because then, if it's true that the Discoveries switched places, then Mirror Universe.
You think he's talking from our universe?
Well, yeah. If the Discovery switch places, then that means Mirror Universe Stamets is like, let's get back to like where we need to be.
Interesting.
And that would explain why he's like, hey, what's up? Let's get going.
Right. Yeah. I want to get back. You want to get back? Come on, let's do this.
Yeah. Let's switch.
I like that. I like what you said, David, about the fact that he's, sort of congenial to his alternate self, and it reminds me of kind of like the Rick and Morty thing, or just to get really nerdy. In Marvel Comics, there's Reed Richards discovers that there's other universes, and so he meets other Reed Richardses, and whether they're good or evil, they all seem to like have a chat with each other before they get down to business, because it's like, okay, well, hey, I'm you, you're me, I'm smart, I know you're smart, so what's up? Like, what's your universe like? What's going on over there? Maybe I'll try to kill you later, but yeah, I have this sort of respect for you, and maybe we could find something out. And so hopefully that's where that's going. Speaking of Mirror Universe characters, though, we mentioned before the Emperor, who we see at the end of this episode, and I think that has a lot of implications for where we're going. There's one thing I know for sure. I bet she's really good with that sword. And hopefully we'll get to see Michelle Yeoh use some of the skill that we know that she has in a cool fight scene with that sword. But Ella, what do you think is in the future for Georgiou, or Mirror Georgiou, and our Burnham?
I have no idea. I think that Georgiou is going to be what breaks Burnham's cover, though, for sure, in the Mirror Universe. I think that was what is that's going to put her over the edge into not being able to have a poker face anymore, because I don't think that she maybe will ever be over Georgiou's death, and I just think that's going to be really hard for her as a character and very heartbreaking for us to watch as an audience.
Do you think they have a similar mentor-mentee relationship in the Mirror Universe?
I think they have maybe an evil mentor-mentee relationship where it's maybe we'll murder each other, maybe you'll murder me when you're bigger and better, when I teach you more. It's maybe I'll murder you when I've had enough.
Yeah.
But I'm mostly still just spooked.
I can imagine then that's always a good villain setup, when the villain is was the teacher or something like that. And so the typical story of the student surpassing the master becomes defeating the master because they're the bad guy. And I wonder if this is going to lead to Georgiou getting over accidentally killing her mentor by actually killing this evil version of the mentor, killing the Buddha in a way.
Also, I still just, from earlier in the podcast, I have just this image of Cyrano Jones, on a throne of tribbles, surrounded by women. Hello, Burnham.
He has the biggest pockets on his coat. Yes. He's the Emperor for sure. What about you, David? What do you think about the implications of Georgiou being the Empress for the story?
Yeah, well, first, that also made me think that I don't think we've ever seen a Mirror Universe Tribble. And I wonder if maybe they're bald.
Yes, right. They're bald and sterile.
That is a terrifying image. Oh my God.
Like an animated squeaking potato. and it just kind of oh God. There's probably stuff hidden under that fur that we don't see that makes it cute. Otherwise it's probably not cute.
Covered with mouths. Just lousy with mouths.
Yeah, it's just covered. It's covered with mouths. I think Georgiou as the Emperor, I think is both one cool that they used that Emperor, I guess, is gender neutral, a woman.
Yes. That's what I thought too.
Yeah, but also, and I'm also concerned about that high collar in fighting scenarios. That might be difficult for her. But, I don't know, because we never really got to like know that character very well. So like I don't know what to expect her inflection to do, her reflection to be. Like what I
Yeah,
don't
she's
know
gone
what.
so fast.
Yeah, like I don't know what the opposite of her is, except like I guess Georgia, what we knew of her was like the perfect boss, I guess. Right? Like she's like
Yeah.
the one that like teaches you exactly. It's the one that we always hope to get, where like they'll actually tell you how to do your job, and they're inspiring, and they make you want to do your job better.
Right.
And like you always want to please them, and maybe this mirror universe Giorgio is just gonna be like a really mean boss. Like I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. That's the only thing I know about her, is that she's a nice boss. And so like now maybe she'll just be a really mean one, which would fit, right? That's how you get to be the emperor of the mirror universe.
And she knew Burnham really well. She was very nurturing for Burnham. So if the mirror universe is about taking those strengths or those characteristics and turning them, to evil or making them negative, then I think that she's going to psychologically really be in Burnham's head if they come to blows with each other.
Yeah, I agree.
But I still want to see a sword fight. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Got to set that up. I have a question. Near the end of the episode, when Burnham sees that Giorgio is the emperor, we get a little shot from Lorca. What's he so happy about?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because it was like just last episode, or was it at the mid-season finale where you were like, this is the next conspiracy theory is like Lorca's actually from the mirror universe. And I was like, please don't start with another one. And now it's like, I think there's another one.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was. I listened to the last episode, and yeah, I think you said that in the last episode. I'm really into that idea. I like that a lot, because that implies that I don't know. You always feel like, and maybe this is just like the overacting of the other series, that like the like no one's gonna look at like mirror universe Kira and be like, that's a normal person, right? Like
right.
Like mirror universe Kira is like this evil sex kitten kind of person that just like is like constantly like trying to like connive and kill, and it's like and like that. I mean, but if no one noticed that Lorca is like from this like pure evil universe, like what does that say about everyone else that were around him?
Right.
Yeah, like think about like his creepy like man cave full of torture weapons. Like that's straight out of the mirror universe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I would never want to limit the writers or anybody who works on Star Trek in what they can do, but it does seem that like when you've got a character like Lorca who's just so clearly not so far away from baseline Starfleet, you have to wonder, can the enlightened 23rd century produce an individual like this, or is that somebody who is from a completely different context, in this case from another universe?
Yeah, or his like immediate instinct to like keep the tardigrade, like capture it and like figure out what makes it like tough.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like I just if he is from the mirror universe, that is just a very quick explanation for how odd he seemed to the audience at the beginning of the series.
Yeah. And
which I'll say we lost a little bit of. Right, he starts to become, as we get to know him.
Yeah,
he suddenly just becomes like a very stern person, and like I expect a lot out of you.
Right.
But you lose all the like little shop of horrors in space sort of feel to it. Maybe they do dial it down a little bit so that you forget it a little bit, which then makes you go, oh wow, yeah, like a little bit harder when it is revealed that he's from the mirror universe. I'm totally on board with this theory.
Yeah, it's starting to look pretty good. I was just thinking too that he's very possessive of Discovery in the early episodes, because after a while they're like, okay, you've got the thing to work, now we got to pull you off the front line so we can pull it apart, and we can start, using this technology on other ships. And he's like, no, I gotta stay out there. He wants to maintain control of Discovery and the spore drive, ostensibly because it's his way back to his universe. But why does he want to defeat the Klingons so badly? Is it that he wants to himself learn Klingon psychology so he can return that information to the mirror universe and defeat the Fire Wolf, a Klingon who's in charge of the Resistance? Is he a sleeper agent for the Emperor? That's what I'm saying.
Man.
Also, him sleeping with a phaser under his pillow. That's another thing. That's very like a mirror universe.
Yeah,
that is a really mirror universe thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big tell. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if is Admiral Cornwell even like in the mirror universe? Are we going to see a mirror her?
I don't think psychologists get very far in the Terran Empire.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I guess you could be like some sort of specialist in psychological warfare, torture, or something.
That's I would like to see that. That would be very cool. Well, every week it seems we're adding to the list of casualties here, but I think that we should probably check our threat ganglia and speculate on who's going to go to that big holodeck in the sky in future episodes. Do either of you have a top pick, a top seed for who's going to meet their maker next?
I think I have a top 2.
Oh, lay it on us.
Stamets and Lorca.
Okay.
I'm worried about both of them.
Okay.
I think Lorca. Yeah, I don't think it is long for this world, or either world, really. And there is someone else that was in the back of my head, and now it's eluding me. I can't think of them, but I mean, perhaps Vok will be lost to us again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thing that bothers me, I hope that's not true, because when you think about it, we're 11 episodes in now with only 4 more to go, I guess, and we still I don't feel like I know a lot about Vok. He's in the first couple episodes, he's taken away from us, and then I think we can now say for sure, yes, that's what's happening. I mean, we could still have a thing where maybe part of Vok's mind was put into Tyler, and he's not really Klingon, but there is something inside him that the Doctor found. But we'll just go with the crazy theory right now. So we haven't got to see him just, I don't know, hanging around. What's his perfect Sunday? You know what I mean? And so now we're seeing this mirror version, and I think that we all agree that the mirror versions of the characters are probably a little disposable. So I kind of want to. I always thought of him as the sort of second lead on the show, and I want him to get a chance as a character to see his arc out. Not at the expense of Burnham and our real heroes, but I hope that the show doesn't lose sight of what that character and what he wants to accomplish.
Well, and his like just his own as a character, not in the show overall, his redemption arc, like for himself, like that never really went anywhere, because at the beginning of the series he was like an outcast or whatever. Like he was, I don't remember specifically what was wrong with him, but it's like all the Klingons hated him, and he was just like some like lowly, I don't even know, dude.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he was like in charge, and then he was gone because presumably he was crushed and ripped apart to be turned into Ash Tyler.
Yeah.
So nothing ever really happened with that. I mean, I think I like Mirror Universe Vok more because he's the head of the rebellion against like the oppressive Terran Empire, so he's got that going for him. But
yeah, he's the Fire Wolf. You kidding me?
Yeah.
David, any comments on Vok?
I do. I am taken with like him as like the head of this of this resistance. Like I like that, and I especially like. I think I said this at the very beginning. How how we're seeing. It's not an anti-federation. It's just sort of this uncanny federation that is against humans that I like a lot, and the fact that there is a a Klingon at the front of it does play with the sort of what I did not like about the beginning of Discovery, where they're like, the Klingons are just bad. They're bad because they're so xenophobic, and they're just xenophobic because they're Klingons, and the Klingons are xenophobic. And it's like, no, actually, this is kind of a social construction, right? This is something, specific things happened that made them that way,
Right.
and it could very easily have been otherwise. It could have been something else. And here,
Right.
and this is why, and maybe I was giving it a tough time about Burnham, like, just asking him a bunch of metaphysics questions, but I think it is actually kind of cool that we're looking at these issues as a matter of, like, underlying ideology and psychology, rather than just like natural hatred for one another or vague desires for conquest or whatever. Like, not everyone's Cardassians.
Yeah, well, yeah. Hey, the Cardassians, they're deeper than that, but yeah. I really like the fact that we're really seeing a payoff in the serial storytelling, in that it's a departure from what Trek's done before, but they told us at the beginning of the show, like, oh, the audience was like, why is this like this, or what does this mean? And they're like, just wait, it'll pay off. And we're seeing now, you lose Captain Giorgio right away. We're like, wow, that was it for Michelle Yeoh. Well, she's back. And so we're starting to see finally these payoffs, late in the game, of the things they set up before, in a way that would be very difficult to do in a reset it every week show, that's more episodic, like we have in previous Trek incarnations. So I'm on board. It took me a little while, but I think that the serialization is really starting to show a payoff.
That's what I was just thinking too, and because I was thinking about how much they've played the long game with this season, and how it feels like just now we're getting into what they meant Disco to be like about, because like you said, we have 4 episodes left of just this season, and then we have to wait until the next one. So they were like planning ahead.
Yeah. And with a couple little fun detours into Harry Mudd and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well,
keep us happy.
Yeah, just to keep the fans happy. Well, I think that is just about it for our show this week. If you like what you hear on this show, listeners, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at EISTPOD for updates, and you can get notified when new episodes of both Enterprising Individuals and this show, Discoverage, are released. And while we're on this show, you can tweet to us on the show by using the hashtag Discoverage, or you can email us at eistpod@gmail.com. And I wanted to remind you that while you're on the internet, you can head to your listening platform of choice and subscribe to our show and give us a rating and a review if you think of it, because it really helps us out. You can also stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/EISTpod to support the show. And if you like the show, do the natural thing and tell a friend. Join us next Sunday night, January 21st, for our next episode of Discoverage. We'll be talking about the 12th episode of Star Trek Discovery, Vaulting Ambition, which is an allusion from Macbeth that ends with "which overleaps itself," which I'm sure will have no ramifications for our captain and crew. No comeuppance, ever. Ella, thanks for joining me on the show again. Where can people find you online?
GenerationsGeek.com and GenerationsGeek on Instagram.
Awesome. And David, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I'm on Twitter as DA_Banks, and my website where I have all my writing is davidabanks.org.
Yes, and you've got a page there that is sort of a collection of social themes in Star Trek that I find very handy when I'm trying to come up with, what was the one with the thing, and they're going to the thing. I've got your site bookmarked for that.
I'm glad it's helpful to at least someone.
Thank you.
Thanks again for one other person.
Yeah, only me. Thanks again for joining me. Thanks for listening, listeners. And we're signing off. This is Caliban for David and Ella saying, live long and prosper.